is here. We need to get these more referrals from our professors to make their students take part in these events.
There's something wrong between referral and...
So thank you, Dr. McDonald and others responsible here. I've just distributed copies of our schedule for the rest of the semester. We've got another 6 or 7 presentations coming up, and maybe some short notice ones as well. So do make yourself available for these Wednesday noon hours if at all possible. We're kicking it off as we typically like to do in the fall semester, but due to scheduling arrangements, we're now doing it this winter semester. We have UNBC's writer-in-residence joining us, Ms. Janet Rogers. And Janet will introduce herself a little bit perhaps, but she is of Mohawk descent, born in Six Nations in southern Ontario, now calls Victoria home, where she was honored by being declared the city's Poet Laureate, in addition to being temporarily UNBC's writer-in-residence. I should point out that this particular event is sponsored by the Canada Council for the Arts and by UNBC's Office of Research, so we do want to properly acknowledge where that funding came from and what makes it possible for Janet to be with us here today. So I invite you to join us in the future, but today Janet will share some of her poetry and readings and perspectives with us. The floor is yours.
Phil. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Hi.
Hello.
So thank you for joining us today at lunchtime. I hope people aren't going to get hungry through this is your lunch hour after all. So thanks again, Phil, for that introduction. Thanks for mentioning the sponsors. I often forget to do that. But so I am the writer-in-residence at UNBC. I'm based out of the Prince George campus presently. I arrived at the end of September there, and I'm going to continue in that position until the end of this month, and then I go back to being regular poet and writer and also a radio host. So if people listen to CBC, I was the host of Tribal Clefs, which was part of the 3 to 6 All Points West show. So I did that for maybe 7-8 years, and it was fun. But I still work in radio, and I'm producing some documentaries currently. So I'm kind of balancing both of these things. What I'm going to share with you this afternoon is some page poetry, some spoken word poetry, and then I will introduce some new work that I've been very, very inspired since I've been in the North. And I've never been based out of the North before. So I found it, I was very surprised with the intensity of the inspiration, the amount of work that I've been producing lately, to be honest. And so there's something here that I have to admit to, and I can't really put my thumb on it to say what exactly it is, but I have been very, very inspired. So as a Mohawk person, we call ourselves Haudenosaunee. That is our word for what we are. You may know us as Iroquois people. We don't use that word. That's a French word, and we don't refer to ourselves as that. Haudenosaunee is people of the Longhouse. We exist in our longhouses. And our creation story, I'm going to start by explaining, and when I say explaining, I mean talking about our creation story, and I wouldn't say that I'm a storyteller because I know that there's people who dedicate their lives to being storytellers, and I'm certainly in no way, shape, or form that. But I can certainly explain what our creation story is. But first I want to ask, how many people know what the creation story is from this territory? Maybe.
The raven steals.
Say again?
The raven comes into the house and steals the box with the sunshine in it.
The light?
The light, I believe.
The sun?
It comes down the chimney, I think, or
Okay.
along that line.
Okay. All right. Something
Then he sneaks in the house to entertain the chief's
Right.
chief's daughter and ends up stealing the light and goes out the chimney anyway with the light, maybe.
Excellent. Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's great. I mean, we have to learn. We have to learn these things. So I learned that our creation story is Sky Woman. We have Sky Woman, who, and I'll just give you a little example of what I'm talking about here. Sky Woman existed in the sky with her husband, the Sky Chief, and she was expecting a child. And in her pregnant state, she had very strong cravings for the taste of the roots of the trees in the sky world. And her husband said, you must never dig up those roots to eat them, because there will be nothing but trouble that follows. But her cravings were so great that she did indeed. She went over to the tree in the sky world and she was digging up those roots. And in some versions of the story, people say that her husband was so upset with her that he pushed her down into the hole in the sky world. But I do not condone this kind of violence in the stories that I relay, so I'm going to say that she lost her balance and she fell through the hole beneath the tree in the sky world. And as she was falling, in an attempt to save herself from falling, she was grabbing onto the roots of those trees in the sky world and grabbing on, but to no avail, she slipped through. And as she was falling down through the sky, she saw below her was a world. It was this world. But at that time, this world was nothing but water. It had all water and no land on it. And she continued to fall, and there was some winged creatures, and they noticed this woman falling down in the sky, and they said, my gosh, what are we going to do? This woman's falling, we must help her. So it was the geese that said, listen, we're going to help this woman, but if we need you guys below in the water world to help us to create a place for her to land. So the geese spread their wide wings open, and they cradled her and caught her in the air and cradled her as she was wafting down into the water world. And all of the water creatures took their turns diving down to the bottom of the sea to try to pick up some mud from the bottom. And every water creature that did that failed because they would drown. They couldn't hold their breath long enough, except for muskrat, who was able to go way, way, way down into the bottom of the sea, grab up a handful of dirt, mud from the bottom, and bring it up. And he brought that dirt and that mud up onto the top of Turtle's back, where he placed it down. And he said, okay, we've got a place for her to land, bring her on down. So the geese brought her down, and Sky Woman was so relieved that there was now a place for her to land and stand on. And she was celebrating so much that she started to do what we call the Haudenosaunee, the woman's shuffle dance, and it goes like this, and she started to dance around on top of that mud, and as she was dancing, it started to spread and spread and spread, and until it was the size of what we know it to be as North America today. So when you hear, sometimes you hear stories or Haudenosaunee people, Indigenous people reference North America as Turtle Island. That's where that reference comes from. So that's our creation story. And it goes on and on. I'm giving you just a really little Reader's Digest version of that story. It really goes on and on and on. She gives birth to a child and da-da-da, like this. So in an attempt to kind of bring Sky Woman back into current times, I wanted to give her voice so she can tell her own story. And to bring her into modern times, I thought I would write a piece for her as if she's blogging about this experience, something that she would post online or on the internet. And so it's in 3 parts, and it goes from first person, and then it goes into third person, and back to first person. This is Sky Woman falling. I have the world in my belly. The air pulls me uncontrollably. I don't care about the growing gap separating my husband and me. Strangely, I don't care. I am already falling like Alice into a wonderland. Here I am fighting and befriending air. I am as weightless as an astronaut. I am an autumn leaf. So this is freedom. This is freedom of flesh and emotion. So this is where the ancestors leave to, circle round to meet you again. My husband, my unborn, her unborn. This is where we'll know everything. Everything is all around me. Am I moving or am I being moved? I hope this never ends. I am gravity's puppet. Away, I am going away, I am arriving. I have to remember this, I have to remember to breathe. I see something. I am the wingless angel, the shoeless traveler, a woman, packing answers and instincts. Speed is increasing. This falling stops. I am caught. The geese have me. My, how they are graceful and look to me curiously. I see something far off. Could that be my future? And part 2 is speaking of her in third person. The rushing air cradled her like a hammock. She slept and dreamt wild, restless dreams, more vision than prophecy. All the colors spun together to make white from black, sounds and songs, a natural soundtrack of spiritual tones, moving outside, inside her, inspiring, indescribable, knowing, evolving, growing like life. There is no escape. This fate is in play. She felt the weight and responsibility crushing reality. She slept and dreamt of opposite things, unwild and unaware. Dropping, her loose limbs pointing upwards towards her home, nevermore, just falling. The winged one seeing and saying, look, a sky woman is falling. Others warning, do not interfere. And a confrontation was had. The sun and moon took it into consideration. It was then decided the geese beings would hold her in place, suspended while they arranged for her earth body to house her. A home where she would be placed and left alone to live out her will. And part 3 is back into first person. I am wide awake. The creature family worked so hard for me. All the water now released from me, and the pain has begun. They work with urgency, the little ones. They know another one comes. The earth beneath me grows as if with every breath, and I am clutching something. There in my palm are seeds I've never seen before. New dreams brought me here, and I must trust and embrace the pain of the coming of this new one, a sister ally. The new world is expanding. I am landing, leaving, and arriving. I am coming. I have gone. The wind commands my hand the same time the girl comes forth, and those alien seeds leave, scattered in a chaotic gust. Both are born, woman and man, never alone again. We are the people. My girl joins me on the soil. The earth is witness to her birth. Land memory has begun. Layers built on feelings. Home. I am home. I made it. Thank you. So that's Sky Woman's journey. And we are all descendants of her. And it was really interesting to learn that in what is now called Washington State in the Lummi territory, they have a similar story where, in their creation story, where a woman comes down from a rope from the sky. And I thought, oh, and they're like, they're on the other side of the turtle. So, but they have a similar story. So I just thought that was really interesting to learn. So I'm going to give you some examples of some spoken word, a couple of short spoken word pieces back to back here. Yeah, I think you'll get the gist of what they're about. This one is called Reflections. I'm just going to check where I begin with that one. Reflections. It's about family. History reflected, shared, and collective stories. Spoken remembrances of token gifts given and taken away. Our lineage is long with names coming down from names. We are made of these names. Family braids thick as rope bring us along, pull us up, save us from drowning in anonymous seas. For all generations, for all generations. We call him uncle, and in our relation equation, it adds up. They call me sister. Biologically incorrect makes us reflect on families. Generations to be rise like sparks, reproducing, perpetuating, reasons to gather fuel for future fires. We are the people who make the families, who build the communities, who dance in our futures. I'm going to leave it at that. I have left this one. I haven't done that piece in a long, long time, so I'm going to leave it at that. And I know those lines aren't going to come back to me, so I do apologize. I'll move on to the next piece. This one is called Distractions. That makes a lot of sense. Here we go. Distractions. The stars are distracting me with their beauty, keeping me from duty and purpose. Your voice is distracting me, telling me to move on, don't linger too long where visions are born. Cities get torn between progress and politics. Nations balance, they straddle two worlds, choose sides out of doubt or compliance as we exercise caution in our need to proceed along new paths, where we feel our way into dark tomorrows. Moving with ancient faith, we create deep tracks left for anthropologists to make fiction of our past. Where are we now? Where are you now? Even on the outside, we still hold a place. Embrace liberation inside, living on the outside of normal. Ground zero, where concepts of the minority are actually the majority, and all of us who don't fit in begin to win votes. Undo what we know not to be true. Live by our own codes. Love those we want, and only those who love us back. We celebrate this fringe of forced displacement. Our uniqueness brought us here, where we dance to our own drums, speak in our own tongues, live by our own laws, because we have found each other in the fringe. Thank you. Yeah, Haudenosaunee have a rich history of being, great orators, and I didn't realize that. I simply wanted to start working in spoken word because it was a much more interesting way to present the work. I came up as a poet through open mics, through coffee houses, practicing that way. I found that was a very supportive and safe place, relatively speaking, to present work and to just kind of train yourself as a spoken word artist. And at the time, and I'm talking about maybe late 1990s, there was nowhere to learn how to present spoken word or how to develop spoken word poetry, but there is now. And there is a wonderful program at the Banff Center for the Arts, and it's a 2-week residency, and you get to hang out with other spoken word artists. And I mean, now there's like a whole movement of spoken word artists. And I mean, I guess we all need to, we owe Shane Poison a debt of thanks when he presented as a spoken word artist at the Olympics. I'll admit to that, but but other than that, there's a whole other global community of spoken word artists that are doing amazing work that you can't find in books. The purists will say, "Oh, you spoken word artists don't print. They don't publish work," but they certainly can record and do things on video using that technology and media. So, and I have done that as well. I have some recorded poetry here, but I'm going to move on. Now, so those were lovely and pleasant poems. Now we're going to get into some nitty-gritty stuff, if that's okay with you. This is called Opposite Directions. This poem, actually, I have to say, was inspired by Leroy Little Bear, who is an amazing academic and elder and over in Lethbridge in that territory. And his speeches are amazing, and when you hear him, you can't help but feel, oh man, he's saying something that's resonating with a lot of truth. And so this piece is actually inspired by one of his lectures, I would call him Chief, Leroy Little Bear, academic. It's called Opposite Directions. Why talk about territory? Why vote or go to war? I make no threats. I take it outside. Let's go. Culture claims indifference. Inside language talks with rented words from the future. I cannot deny the energy matter person I am, the people I come from, the way we live. Time and land are unrelated. What do you hear inside my sound combinations? Flat notes, sink, float, meaningless, vocables, chants, take a chance. Treaties keep treating. Histories repeating. Singers keep singing. I am constantly singing. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. Awakeness is not the same as awareness. I could care less when asked how you fit in. Through impatience, I embrace accelerated methods of communications. Text me about imbalanced sustainability. There is not enough land to grow all the food to feed all the people. Some of us have got to go. At least stop feeding people into the problem. Intelligence is a trickster, looking like a prince with solutions, but given time is revealed to be a northern beggar, mixed race, rudderless brother, cultureless court jester. The drums are sounding, the women are coming, and we're not asking, we're telling. Our place is on the land, in front, on our feet, leading, let's go. So I'm told. The black ones hold the gift of music, the yellow ones know how to heal, the red ones have been caretakers of this land forever and ever, and the white ones keep talking. Time and land face opposite directions, looking backwards towards the west where everything is sung into being. We are born from songs, so keep singing, keep breathing the melodies that made you. I am bringing ways of my land to your liquid thresholds. Hold on, let's go. Happiness is a song sung on the land by those who know it. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. Thank you. We'll be having a Q&A after, so if you need to pose some questions about things afterwards, we can wait till then. The other, being a spoken word artist, of course, and being given the opportunities to present to people, I'm able to bring my culture to people who don't ordinarily would have the opportunity to learn about Six Nations culture. Anybody has been to Six Nations, by the way? Been to Southern Ontario? One person, two people, one and a half? Almost, you were almost there? You almost made it? Yeah, we were discussing, Phil was talking about the significance of Joseph Branch from the territory, and that was, the big one in history that that's common is the Battle of 1812 with Joseph Branch, and they're actually in 2012 there was a lot of commemorative events that took place in that territory and things like that. But really, when you think about it, the Confederacy, the actual Six Nations of that Confederacy had no choice but to choose a side to fight with, and so many of the Six Nations people of that Confederacy chose to fight with the British, and then after all was said and done, the British said, and now we will reward you your land back. It's like, well, it was ours to begin with, but not to get into that too much, but we operate with a two-row wampum agreement. And that wampum agreement was established in 1613 with the early Dutch settlers. And this took place in upstate New York, where Haudenosaunee people were, of course, situated. And the two-row wampum agreement was established so that we could manage this relationship with our non-native neighbors with the focus coming back to the environment. So really the two-row wampum agreement was established to protect the environment and the resources around the environment where we stayed. And in 2013, that two-row wampum agreement was celebrated 400 years later in Manhattan, New York. And I happened to have the opportunity to have been there at that time. And there was a two-row paddle down the Hudson River. And it was really an amazing thing. There was Native people and non-Native people that took 18 days to travel down the Hudson, landing in Manhattan, New York at Pier 97 or 79, either one. And then we made our way over to the UN for the Day of National Indigenous Rights. And it was really quite a thing. I met Pete Seeger there that day before he died. That was just a few months before he died. So yeah, it was really quite a wonderful thing. And so we revisit the two-row wampum agreement every now and then. We pull out that wampum belt and we say, this was the original agreement, just reminding you. And so this piece, this next spoken word piece actually is based on that agreement, the two-row wampum agreement. It's called Forever. Forever. As long as the sun shines upon the earth, as long as the water still flows, as long as the grass grows at a certain time each year, forever, as long as Mother Earth is still in motion, still in motion, still in motion. It's hard work to maintain the middle row. One line makes I, separating sides. They navigate a boat down a similar river. We paddle a canoe packing values, never touching, forever separate, step by step, laws of respect, intended to protect sacred relationships. Words from good minds, Gazwente, two-row wampum, not treaty like it was told, but a non-apology, canoe and boat, ever-flowing large water river, buoyancy beyond democracy, boundaries, not borders. The law was not authored in an angry house of disputes, but rather inspired from witness to cause and effect of free will, resulting in greed and corruption and unlawful things. Protection of our relationship to a mother, not better than the other, but something necessary to exercise caution. Careful, steady, carry on. Your side, our side. Maintaining the middle is most difficult. I is for Indian affairs. I is for Indigenous. I is for Iroquois, Haudenosaunee. I is for imperialism. I is for incident. I is for initiation. A league of nations corresponding by beads on a belt. And anyone thinking beads to be insignificant should try getting them back from a museum. Prime Minister, Crime Minister, simultaneous colonization and decolonization, relational trade, quasi-kin, two sides kept equal. This is women's work. Those mountains didn't build themselves. Forever. As long as the sun shines upon the earth, as long as the water still flows, as long as the grass grows at a certain time each year, forever. As long as Mother Earth is still in motion, still in motion, still in motion. It's about balance and focus. It's about commitment and loyalty. Hard things put in place, speaking the language of agreement, being included from a distance, peace and prosperity and respect. Do not cross that line. We said, do not cross that line. Disruption results in consequences. Remember Ganastalto, Caledonia, remember Augustus Lake, remember Ipperwash, remember Oka, remember Alcatraz and Eagle Bay, remember Wounded Knee. Every day is Remembrance Day. Every day. Oh, Wahoa, original and national fabric forming, blessing and protecting something spiritual, not material, but a difficult journey, maintaining the course, leaving nothing to debate, constitutional consequences, overflowing with intelligence. Peacemaker would be proud. Forever, as long as the sun shines upon the earth, as long as the water still flows, as long as the grass grows at a certain time each year, forever. As long as Mother Earth is still in motion, still in motion, still in motion, forever. Thank you. Keep your questions ready. Anyway, how many people? This is funny question. How many people believe in the Bering Strait land bridge theory? Yeah?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I do.
Okay, this is for you then. Again, there's some great scholars out there, Indigenous scholars out there, Laureate and Laureate Jr. being, just a couple. And he's written a book called Red Earth, White Lies, and so this poem is called Red Earth, White Lies, Debunking Bering Strait. Okay, let's debunk that goodie right there. It begins. And this is, I've written this recently as part of the writer residence. A new world is born from myth. Scientific rejected creation stories, Christian notations and Bible fiction, inflexible spiritual doctrines and discovery. Original oral indigenous, inferior, missionary religious slogans superior to science. The discomfort so intolerable to cultivate a land bridge theory so impossible to justify factual atrocities built here from a foundation of lies. Bering Strait equates to BS. Red Earth, white lies. Caucasoid, Asia to Alaska, Army Corp of America holding and controlling DNA from 9,000 years ago. Balloon-like conclusions floating up in the one direction never considered. Say some we rested in New Mexico by way of Chile. Sounds like a fine vacation after a long day's journey. Following mammoths and other hard-won meat when abundant vegetation right under our feet should be overlooked. Interior roots, examined and disputed. Considered coastal cultures with canoes, looking to Australia with avant-garde seafood, appetites and waves of abundance chasing nothing but discovery. Without solid evidence, scientists have early man traveling by leaps of faith across an impassable land of early Yupik bands, now a national park, a peace treaty territory where Russia and America shook hands in a heist, claiming shared heritage and naming their adopted baby Beringina. Displaced scientists themselves in need of origin stories, unless they have descended from mysterious sources, crossing fictional terrain, following dinosaurs over cliffs, finding flight too late. Mongoloid, ice age migrants without status or governance, theorists debunked and cut loose, scratching out our creator's name. Religion and science tag team wrestling remnants of Asian cultures don't just enter the ring. Propaganda taught as fact, defending theories and rejecting evidence as matter of fact, as the smoking gun in a cop's hand stood over black youth. You want truth? How they love to tell me where I'm from. Comfortably in place and named after kings and princes who never even visited. Stinging insult to those who reference it. By nature, places, references, much bigger than ourselves. Ignoring obvious evidence, even if we are from there, we were still here hundreds of years before you. What do you mean, go back to where you came? Emphasized with ridiculous hyphenated exaggeration, Paleo-Indian, Aboriginal North American, putting people before place. Tagging regions with pronunciation stabbing at our tongues. Territories don't even understand their own language anymore. As Poet Laureate said, Bering Strait is shorthand for, I don't know, good stories making it up as they go. We are writing a new history without white lies from this brown face. Thank you. Here's Phil's making notes. Phil's making notes. And maybe I'll finish up with this last one. This one has become pretty significant. In August of 2013, my sister was murdered. And having the experience of traveling along Highway 16 for the very first time was an intense experience for me. I really didn't know what was going to happen there. So now I have traveled it a second time, coming back up here for this visit. And again, the inspiration is, it's different. It's a different inspiration. It's a healing. It's a lot of things. So this piece was written the first time I traveled the highway. This was back in, was it October, I guess, when I went to the Mass Valley. And it's called Totem Poles and Railroads, Highways of Tears. And I really think that this might be the title of the new collection that will come out this year. So it's a pretty significant piece for me here. And I'll share it with you. And I really wouldn't mind if we had a little bit of discussion about, you guys are like right on ground zero here, where all of this is happening. So I wouldn't mind having a discussion about that with you. Totem Poles and Railroads, Highways of Tears. Early fog, cups of coffee, 6 miles of slippery, frost hugging everything. Nothing escapes Raven's gaze. No need to speed, sharp focus, both comfort and mysterious. Missing faces, smiling from weather-worn, big, wide billboards, counting days to months to tears. Open season for truckers and policemen. Wouldn't you want to clear yourself of suspicion? Inhabitants eat well here for a week, until the kindness of stranger neighbors dries up like ice in November. Presence and economics played like lazy hands of poker, not in our favor. Numbers don't lie. Paranoia is colonial, arriving on foreign ships of deceit, landing on honest shores of indigenous innocence. My eyes rapid scan bears, women. Red-stained shoulders and Raven's pecking order in the rear view mirror. Each territory has a center and signal to follow suit. Change reverberates, heritage stagnates, politics hold backs, blocks to progress. Resolution, perpetuation, penetrations. Altered consciousness evolved, best we stay awake. Authenticity burgeoning, fresh reality crossing potholes and holy practices. Deep hibernation, this is the winter of our discounts. Tobacco placed, another season buried, snow and time. Evidence can provide remembering, releasing, beginning, healing, hunting down, haunting, a harvest of honest, traumatic brutality, sickness, reflecting, flesh-ripping steel vehicles, extractions, extractions, extractions. Low cloud cover, 30 more days. Skid marks and hitchhikes, swerving, listening for voices. None of this is ours. This music, not ours. Propaganda is the first tool. Totem poles and railroads, Canada Post, diesel and drugs. Uncomfortable with discomfort. Everything is human error pointing towards police. Cop cars passing opposite direction. I look to them like they know something, like I know something, like they know something, and not saying. We're not sure what's been saved or deleted. And there she is. Heated cheeks, slack jacket slung from half a mile back, body language exhausted, walking south. I want my finger in her face, shake and say, don't you dare, just don't do it. Ahead, heaven-high mountains, the precipitous of stately Carolina, angels singing raw, rich notes, filling souls with authentic sermons, uplifts this heavy energy. Hearts beating slower, but still inspired. Proclamations of beauty will know now and round dance all the possibilities. A restless drive, nervous, no peace till dawn. Museums and tractor sculptures, monuments of extraction culture, not the threat of natural distractions, but the other guy, breaking at 80, forcing urgency to all things, caution. Clearing the passenger side, everything is shifted, new conversations and concerns. Not my territory. I can't ask the ancestors for anything here. Directions change from east to north, feel gut rocks dissolve, a happier road, Indian road, I know this road. Paved for commerce as commodity with little return. Backwards running river, reading right to left, no more road. I won't stop, not for cops, I am not next. 8 lovely degrees at the end of October. Birch bark stark white, firs are furrier. eyes peeled, more giving thanks. Totem poles and railroads, mountain houses and names of princes, borrowed, bored, cancer spots, small town slumming. I would not insult them to call them ghosts. They are here, voiceless moons, reflecting heat, travel companions reaching destinations at last, done with victim rhetoric, scientists of our own circumstances, architects of resistance, facts flooding highways, mudslides, and construction zones. Slow, stop, go. Thank you. No, I've been recording as well. As I've been writing, I've been recording these things as well. So check out SoundCloud, and you'll find some new pieces up there that I have been producing with music and sounds and effects and things like that. It's kind of really what turns me right on, is the ability to kind of edit audio together and turn the original work into sound experiences. So that's what I have to present to you today. People might walk away and go, oh my God, those Mohawks. They're so intense, oh my God. I don't understand it. Or whatever your reaction is, I don't know. But it really is a pleasure to be here in Terrace on traditional territory. From what I understand, I was asking the high school yesterday whose traditional territory this is, and they said there was 3 nations. So I'm going to say Gitsan. Is that right? I hope someone will correct me. Tsimshian. Tsimshian. This is. And what was the other one? Who was the third? Who would be the third nation? Who is? Oh, Haisla.
They're south of here.
Okay.
So
This is Simshin.
Okay. So I'm grateful to be here on Tsimshian territory, traditional territory, as a guest. Until Friday. Thanks, everybody. We can, take questions or comments if you. Oh, wait. I'm going to go through. Yes.
Well, I was very intrigued to hear you introduce yourself as Haudenosaunee. And when I was a very young man, pretty callow, I think I was about 17. I was at the University of Lethbridge, so I was very interested to hear your comments about the reader from Lethbridge. One of the guest speakers they brought to the university there was a woman named Continent Horn.
Oh yeah.
Do you know if she's still alive?
Oh yeah, she's still out there. She's from Ganawagi. She's Mohawk. She's from Ganawagi, which is in Quebec, the province which is now called Quebec. And she has 3 amazing daughters, maybe 4, but 3 to my knowledge. And they're all amazing women. And she has her reputation, precedes her. She's a ass-kicking Haudenosaunee activist that just takes no BS from anybody. And
yeah, she was
that's
very
atypical of Haudenosaunee women. So that's how we roll. Yeah. Oh, lucky you got to hear her.
That was very interesting.
I'm sure.
I was wow.
That's a good reaction. Yeah, cool. Yes.
For me, I was up in Whitehorse, and there's a museum that talks about Thuringia. So that's where I thought
okay.
yeah. At the museum, so
Yeah.
definitely have to go back there. That particular spoken word piece, is that published anywhere, or is that just on SoundCloud? The Thuringia one.
Oh, that the Bering Strait. That's
Yes.
not published yet, and I haven't recorded that one.
I like it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it'll be. I'm really hoping that the new collection will be out later this year. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm hoping it will be with Thetis Books. I'm crossing my fingers, and they're a native owned and operated publishing company out of Penticton, so they're BC based. But really, as the publishing business goes, I'll go with whoever wants to publish it. Really, hopefully soonish, because the work is coming. It just keeps coming. Any other questions or comments, you guys? Yes.
The highway poem is so powerful with all that's going on.
The which, sorry?
The highway poem?
Yes.
And a question came up for me when you said the line, I can't ask the ancestors for anything.
Anything here and that.
In my imaginary world, I guess, given that I haven't thought about that a lot until right now, they would be in a space much larger than me that was unknowable.
Yeah.
So how does that work epistemologically when you're crossing territories and when you're shifting?
Yeah.
Because the gathering of nations that took on the pipeline on some of these unfought extraction locations and industries in general, like how would groups like that work when all the nations are gathering? For instance, at the Gilgad gathering in Kitimat, it seemed like that same imaginary of just everyone is here at every level
Yeah.
was operating.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, when we, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing you ask about is the spirit within that question. I can't ask the spirits for anything here. So it was interesting when, and to answer your question, I'm going to say when I moved to the West Coast from Southern Ontario, it took me about 3 years to kind of really realize that, you know what, my ancestors are not here. My ancestors are not here. And when I go into a place of, you know, spirit, communication with spirit and prayer, I'm calling on my people. I'm calling on my spirits. And when I come to territories, different territories, like for example, the first thing I did at the beginning of the residency in Prince George was go to a place on the land, put my tobacco down, tobacco that comes from my territory, to introduce myself to the land and to speak about my purpose in that place so that the land knows who I am. Now, when I'm asking for things, when I'm asking for support, when I'm asking for attention on with the journey that I'm on, I'm calling on my ancestors, my spirits, my sister, you know. And so that's what I'm talking about. Here, there's other ancestors here. And I don't feel that I have the right to ask them for what is here. You know, I can only bring my people, my ancestors, my spirits here. Does that answer? Yes.
When you come and do your reading of your poetry, is there a reason why you don't use do you wear regalia?
No.
Right.
Why? No. Why would I do that? There is a woman, however, who, you know, I have been researching and studying and kind of, you know, has been a great influence in the work that I do. E. Pauline Johnson, from the early 1900s, and she took it to the nth degree where she would perform on stage, and she was like the very first. She's from my territory, Six Nations, Pauline Johnson. Her family home still is there on my reserve. And she would travel around. She traveled this country 19 times in the early 1900s, you know, when it wasn't easy to do that. And she did recitation. I really think that her thing is she really wanted to be an actress, and so, but she was a writer, and so she kind of combined those two things. And she was the first one to do recitation of her original poetry. And because her mother was English and her father was Mohawk chief. And so she would go on stage and she'd have like these two parts of her presentation where she would wear like this crazy costume. And I have to say, like, you know, we use the word regalia, but man, what she was in was a costume because she had cobbled it together out of like this crazy leather, and like I've never seen Haudenosaunee dress like that. So she was playing up her Indian thing. She was like really playing it up, eh? And then she'd come out the second half of her presentation in proper English, you know, formal gown, and so that, you know, the audience would be, oh, you know, oh, look at this savage. Now she's tamed, and whatever her thing was, right? So, but I know some musicians, for example, they like to dress in regalia and things like that. And I do have regalia, and I do dance in regalia, but this is. I wouldn't be myself, you know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't be like, you know, I'm presenting this kind of like really hard stuff and, or beautiful stuff, however you want to see it. And I don't feel the need to kind of dress other than I would, you know, respectfully in front of an audience. So, yeah. Yes.
But speaking of performance art, I think calling it spoken word undersells the artistry. I mean, I was fascinated by watching your hand movements.
Oh, yes.
You know, there was real poetry in your delivery. It was not just spoken word.
Yes, it's true. No, I tell, when I present to classes, that's what I tell them. I say, you know, people listen with their eyes as much as their ears. And so, and again, so this is, you know, all of this or whatever it is I'm doing is a natural thing. So I'm trying
Oh, very
to be
effective.
natural. I'm trying to be natural. If I could say that. Yes.
If one were to attend a workshop on the spoken word and take the courses, how would a person prepare for that experience?
Well, I think it's like, I don't know why this came into mind, but it would be like going into rehab, which I've never been to. But you'd have, you know, you'd have to have like a little background before you would go there. So you'd have to, you know, build a body of work, I think, to bring to that sort of thing, so that you could say, okay, I have this to work with. You know, like I said, back in the day when I was started doing spoken word, really, I was just really pulling stuff out of the air, man. Like, you know, grabbing at stuff, just trying to figure out how do you do this, you know. And then that's when I realized, okay, you have to keep it as natural as possible. Otherwise, it looks weird, you know. So I learned what my natural dictionary of gestures was, and you know, and worked that in and stayed with that.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Yes.
I'm just wondering, when you write, do you go away to a quiet space, or does it come to you at different times, or what are you doing in those moments?
The highway poem, and I do a lot of poetry about road trips, and I travel, I love driving, and so what I've learned is I can use my phone, the voice recorder on my phone, to capture those lines, because those lines come when I'm driving. And I mean, you could lie to yourself and say, I'll remember it. It never happens. So when those lines come, I pick that up, I have it ready, so I'm not fumbling around with it. I have it ready, and then when the lines come, I record, I put it down, drive, more lines come, record, and like that. And then at the destination, I'll write those phrases out, and then eventually make poetry with that. That's one method. But yes, quiet is best. Yes.
Do you ever compose in Haudenosaunee as opposed to English?
I have tried. I mean, I don't speak the language. I speak minimal Haudenosaunee. And I had asked someone from home if they would translate, and they looked at my poetry and they go, this is too hard. However, I did, speaking of Ganawagi, they do have a 2-year immersion language program, and I visited that class, and I mean, they just speak Haudenosaunee all the time. And so I went in there and I'm like polluting the air with my English, like that's what it felt like, because I'm like, ooh. And but they knew I was coming as a poet, and they wrote poetry in Haudenosaunee, and I got to record their poems in Haudenosaunee, and it was just beautiful. Oh my gosh, you know, simple poems about cars or, you know, flowers or whatever, but gorgeous. They're just gorgeous. Yeah, that's a goal, definitely. Anything else, you guys? Any other questions or comments? I do have some books up here, recordings. My latest book is Peace and Dress. You can go to Talon Books' website, go to Meta Talon on their website, and you can hear the recordings that I've done for Peace and Dress, which is my latest book there. So they've done me that honor of allowing me to have that audio companion with the print book. So you could find that and enjoy it for free online.
So with that in mind, please join me in thanking Janet for her presence here today. We have a small gift for you if you don't have too many UNBC mugs already.
No, I don't think that. Oh, it has a moose. I've not even seen a moose yet in my
Oh,
life.
my.
In my whole life, and I'm hoping to see
Keep your eyes
Sasquatch
open on
and
the
moose.
highway.
Yes, yeah. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
We have the room in an hour after this, so if you wish to speak with Janet or maybe look at some of her books, I'm not sure if you have them for sale.
I do, they're for sale, and I'll be reading at the public library tomorrow,
Oh, very
7:30.
good. Public library in town tomorrow, 7:30 as well.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so much.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thanks everyone for attending.
Thanks, Alex, for